Hello, I am Mr. Ford, and today we are going to be looking at different types of transformations. So, what is a transformation? A transformation is something that you do on a Cartesian grid where you are moving points or a shape made out of points on your grid from one location to another. And there's a couple different types of transformations. There are translations, rotations, and reflections. And we're going to be looking at all three of those in the next upcoming videos. But first, we're going to start with how to plot our points. So this is a Cartesian plane. You can think of it like a coordinate grid that has 4 separate quadrants. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have 2 axes in our grid. We have the x-axis, so I'm going to put an x on either side, and that's our horizontal axis. And we have our y-axis, and that's our vertical axis, our up and down. Now, you'll notice, if you look carefully, that these numbers for the different sections of the axis are either positive or negative. So all of the numbers, all of the coordinates, because that's what these are parts of a coordinate, all of the ones in quadrant 1 are positive. So you'll see whatever your number is will be written as positive, positive. Down here in quadrant 4, it's going to be positive followed by a negative number. And the reason for that is because we always say our x-axis first. So the x numbers on this side are still positive, but our y numbers here are all negative. So x first, y second. Back up here in quadrant number 2, we have negative, positive. So our x-axis numbers on this side are negative, but our y are positive. And lastly, down here in quadrant 3, we have negative and negative. So an easy way when you are looking at, when you're given different coordinates, you can look and you can think immediately, oh, it's 2 positive numbers. Well, it's going to be over in this quadrant somewhere. This is where I'm looking. Oh, I hear a positive and a negative. I know that x comes first, so my positive is over here. It's going to be a positive x, and oh, it's a negative. It's going to be somewhere in this quadrant, and so on. So we're going to plot out 3 different points. I'm going to write them down on a separate piece of paper. I think you should be able to see this. Just 1 second. Okay. And we're going to name these points A, B, and C. So we're going to start by plotting those out. So as I said before, when I read coordinates, my x-axis is always first. Out of my 2 coordinates, this is always first. So positive 3, I know it's going to be on this side. My second number is a positive number, so I find 3x. And then I am looking for positive 3y. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. I plot my point. And I'm going to do that for my other 2 points as well. First, I'm going to name this one. So I know this is A. Next, I find 5. And I go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then my last one is 2. Find 2. Go up 6. Now, if you aren't comfortable counting the different intersections going up or down for your y-axis, you can always draw a dotted line. So if I were going to go, I'll show you with a different color, if I were going to find 2, 6, I would draw my dotted line 2 over from the origin, that's 0, 0, and 6 up. I could also start from 2 and then go across at 6 as well. So we have our 3 points. Now we're going to turn this into a shape. So I'm going to take my ruler, because we want to make sure our points are straight. I'm pressing in the center of my ruler so it doesn't run around on me. And I'm going to connect each of these 3 points. I'm going to label the other 2. And then we're going to label this entire shape triangle A, B, C. So we're going to give it a name. Now, we've plotted out our points. Now we need to do a transformation. And the first type of transformation we're going to do is we are going to do a translation. So translation is when you move all 3 of your points, or however many points you have, in the same direction the same number of times. So our shape, in essence, won't change, but instead we will translate our shape to a different part of the grid. So when we're doing translations, an easy thing to remember, and I'll write it down here, your x is left or right, your y is up or down, x positive is going to be right, x negative is going to be left movement, y positive is an upward motion, y negative is a downward motion. So we're going to start off with a single axis change. We're going to start off with a change of x equals negative 6. So we need to move all 3 of these points 6 points to the left. And as you can see down here, the reason for that is because our plane the numbers get greater as we go to the right, and they get smaller, and they move into negative numbers and get even smaller as we go to the left. So I'm going to start, doesn't typically, with a translation, it doesn't matter which point you start at, and I like to kind of skip, leap, if you will, so I can keep track of my spot. So I'm going to start with C. I'm going to go 1 to the next point. I'm going to do that 6 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Draw a point. I'm going to go to B, and I have to start my numbering again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then lastly, I'm going to do this to A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I take my ruler. I'm going to switch colors just so we can see the difference, just in case our grid starts to get a little congested. And when I draw out my new triangle, it should look identical to my original shape. Your second shape, your translated shape, should be identical to your original shape. And I'm going to rename these points. So this was A originally. I'm going to call it D now. This was B, so I'm going to call it E. This last one I'm going to call it F. And I'm going to name this triangle. I'm going to name it triangle DEF. And in brackets, I'm going to put x negative 6. Make my F a bit more defined there. Okay, so that is a translation. And we're going to do another translation, this time from this shape, from our second shape, and we're going to translate the y-axis. So we're going to move either up or down because the y-axis is vertical. If it's positive, we'll go up. If it's negative, we'll go down. And Okay, and we're back. So I guess I must talk too much because we missed a translation. The video cut out on us, so we'll try and be a little bit quicker. I have quickly redrawn our original shape, our original triangle, triangle ABC, and I have redrawn our first translation. Now we're going to translate the y-axis, and this time we're going to be translating down. We're going to translate -7. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, right there in the corner of your screen. So y, -7. So y is our vertical axis. It's asking us -7, so the numbers go down. They get smaller going down, so we're going to be moving down. And we're going to switch colors again, just to make it easy. I'm going to pick a point, and I'm going to go down 7. And I'm going to do this to each point. I don't know if I said this in the section of the video that we caught or if I said it after the camera had stopped recording, but I like drawing these little leapfrogs. It helps me keep track of the number of times I've moved in a translation. Now, you don't need to draw those if you don't want to. If you're capable of basically going down the points and you don't have to draw a line, or maybe you draw a line and you're using pencil and you erase it afterwards, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to rename our points now. So we stopped at E last time, G, H, I. We're going to name this one Triangle G, H, I. And in brackets, I'm going to put y, -7. Okay? So now we've done 2 types of translations. We've done an x-axis translation where we've moved either left or right. In this case, we moved to the left, -6. And we've done a y translation where we've moved either up or down. In this case, we moved down, -7. Our last translation is going to be both x and y-axis. This is sort of a diagonal change, if you want to think of it that way. Remember, our shape is going to be identical. It's not going to change. All of the points are going to move the same number of positions in the same directions. We're not going to get a larger shape. We're not going to get a smaller shape. We're not going to get a slightly changed shape. It's going to be the same. So this time around, let's get a new sheet here. Our translation is going to be x +5. Y is going to be -2. So again, we look back kind of at our little cheat corner here. We know that x moves left or right. We know that if it's a positive x, like ours is, then we're moving to the right. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to change colors back to blue. So it's a bit easier to see. I'm going to start off with point H, and I'm just going to move it 5 to the right. 4, 5. But we're not done yet, so I'm not going to put my point here. We have to move y -2 before I can replot this point. And I know, again, from my little cheat sheet over here, that y, and obviously my y-axis, that the y is getting smaller going down. So -2, I need to go down. So I go down 2. And it's going to make, your little leapfrogging is going to make sort of an odd-shaped L. I plot my point. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other 2 points. So now that I've got my points, grab my trusty ruler again. If you don't have a ruler while you're doing this, you can really use any straight edge. You can use anything you can think of. Sometimes there's some really funny things you can use for a straight edge. You can use a pizza box, you can use a tissue box, you can use all kinds of things. And we're going to label this again. J, K, and L. And I'm going to name it. This is triangle J, K, L. Y, or sorry, X. We'll do X first since we've moved both. X plus 5, Y negative 2. All right, so we've done 3 different translations here. We've done a x-axis only translation where our points don't go up or down, they only move left or right. That's our red one right here. We've done a y translation where our points don't move left and right, they only go up or down. That's our green one right here. And we've done an x and y translation where our shape moves sort of on a diagonal motion. So it moves either left or right and then up or down. And we've plotted at our points as we've done this. Now, if you were asked to write down the points that you needed to write down, you just make sure that you're writing your x point first and then your y point second. So let's say if instead of A, B, C, I was asked to do 3, 3, well, that's really easy because it's both positive and it's both the same number, so can't really make a mistake there. But the second one is 5, 6. We read the 5 first on the x-axis, and then we read the 6. If not, if we read it backwards, we're actually going to end up over here, where if some of you watched the sped-up version, you might have seen I did that at the beginning and went, oh, wait a minute, that's wrong. And then I changed it. I have to read the x first and the y second. You can do that for any of these points. So this has been one type. Call it type 1. Transformations. Remember, there's 3 types of transformations, and that has been translations. So we're doing translations, left and right, up and down. Hi. So if you want to see more types of transformations, you just have to wait a little bit. It's Friday evening and it's getting kind of late, so I am going to be going home. But if you enjoyed this video on translations, then let me know on Monday and we'll maybe do some more videos on rotations and reflections later next week. Have a great weekend.